I'm Bob Brill. He's Erik Kramer. Welcome to Kramer and Brill, an NFL fantasy football podcast. Each week, my co-host, former Bears and Lions quarterback Erik Kramer, and myself delve into your fantasy football choices. Hopefully, help you out on your way to victory. We did okay this week. You can find out more, by the way, by going to our website, kramerandbrill.com, or on my Bob Brill YouTube channel to watch the video portion of it. Okay, recapping how we did. Lamar Jackson continues to roll, 107 yards rushing and a touchdown, 4 touchdowns passing. He's on par to have the greatest year ever for a quarterback. Erik, like Trevor Lawrence, and 3 touchdowns and no picks was solid. Same with Jalen Hurts, who you really like, 3 touchdowns and no picks. We both fell flat on Flacco and Wentz. Wow, after a couple of good weeks, these guys just couldn't get out of their own way. Wentz was under 2 fantasy points, so that's unbelievable. You like Khalil Herbert. You mentioned him last week, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. I like Jamal Williams in Detroit, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. I like Jeff Wilson. He got 75 and 3 catches. You like Chris Olave and his 9 catches. We got 147, and no one saw Devonta Smith on his 169 or Matt Hollins in his 158.
I like Khalil Herbert because I like anybody who runs behind the Bears offensive line right now. It could be me or you, in fact, getting 100 yards. They just block, period, and they're fun to watch. The receivers are incredible blockers down the field. The guy you mentioned, well, I don't know if you did, but Damian Pierce, the running back for the Texans, that guy is legit, and they have a good enough offensive line to keep him going too. You've always liked Pittman versus the guy for the Colts, who's, again, I like him as well. Jared Goff, I think, moving forward is a guy that you could start now. I don't think there's been a time with him as a Lion where he's looked this comfortable, even as a Ram. And I think he's legit now, which means all the people he's throwing to, including Jamal Williams, who he's handing off to, all become players. And then you mentioned Lamar Jackson. I mean, this guy is rewriting everything. And we're so young in the season. It's like MVP season number 2, which is kind of exciting for anybody who owns Lamar Jackson. And I think, in addition to Mark Andrews there in Baltimore, Rashad Bateman has come alive, and I think is a legitimate replacement now for Hollywood Brown, and is someone I would consider starting as well. And I think the guy that's really going to start going off here now that Joe Burrow has apparently found himself is Jamar Chase, and it's only a matter of time. He had a touchdown this past week, and I think as things go along here, he's a guy that's going to get back in a lot of people's starting lineups.
Talking about 2 guys going in opposite directions who were the 1 and 2 pick, the guys who were expected to be 1 and 2 picks when they came up, Goff and Wentz. Remember, I mean, it was like these 2 guys, and Goff did get to a Super Bowl. Wentz did get to a Super Bowl, but at the same time, these guys, it's like they're forgotten guys. But like you said, Goff is going the right way. Wentz is, I don't know I can never figure this guy out. Injuries.
Well, it's like he had a very good season there in Philadelphia right up until he got hurt. And since then, he hasn't been the same guy. And I can't quite figure it out, other than the fundamentals of what he's doing have kind of gone in all different directions.
Yeah. Now, injuries. Mac Jones, we just got for sure today. Mac Jones, severe high ankle sprain. That makes Brian Hoyer a commodity this week on the waiver wire. Jones is going to be out probably several weeks. DeAndre Swift, should injury. He's got some issues there. He got not as big an injury, but that'll make Williams a hot pick this week, who's been doing really, really well as a touchdown vulture. And then this year, this last week when he got in full time, he just took off. Mac Jones again out. Hoyer, the man there. Giants, Sterling Shepard had a good night and then tore his ACL, out for the season. So that means any backup wide receiver with the Giants would be a good pickup. I like Kadarius Toney here. Well, Kenny Golladay may get a resurgence. They were talking about trading him because he's got a big contract and everything, but he has had lack of production, but he may come back. So keep an eye on him, and keep an eye on Schultz in Dallas, who did not play, and he remains questionable.
Well, I just, to me, the Giants looked. I made this comment last night watching the game. Nothing ever looks easy for Daniel Jones. Like, the game could not look more hard. And that's with or without a pass rush. And so I think the only guy, to me, moving forward for the Giants right now, as long as Daniel Jones playing quarterback, is Saquon Barkley, because I think he can overcome a lot, and that is overcoming a lot, because they don't have really many weapons in with the Giants,
Let's,
unfortunately.
let's get right to the game. Start with Thursday night. Dolphins Bengals. Look for both teams to rebound. Is Tua for real, and is Burrow on a mission? Both could be true. After a 3-touchdown, no-pick day, Burrow is solid here, but keep an eye on Mixon as he's questionable. If he can't go, don't go overboard on Samaje Perine, and only as a possible flex. I'm not liking Tua this week, but I am good with Jalen Waddle. If I don't like Tua, I can't like Tyreek Hill.
Well, as is going to be the case every week, Josh Allen put up huge numbers last week against the Dolphins, and that's why I think Joe Burrow and company are going to do the same this week against Miami. As I mentioned before, Jamar Chase, and I think T. Higgins is now going to get back on par with what he's been in the past. And I think Tua basically came crashing down to earth where at least I and probably a lot of other people think he belongs. And that therefore, I don't see really a Dolphins player consistently week to week stepping up. And so that's why I probably wouldn't play one this week.
Let's go to Sunday. Vikings Saints. Cook is questionable. Let's keep an eye on him. And if he can't go, Madison is a solid pick, as are Jefferson and Thielen. Osborne will see some action on the waiver wire this week as well. So with Smith and Thomas questionable, along with Landry, I'd go heavy on Olav again and Winston as a tandem. Taysom Hill is out this week.
And I like where Kirk Cousins' game is going and has been now for a while. And that means I love just Jefferson and Thielen, and would have loved Cook had he not gotten hurt. As you said, Madison's a possibility there too. But I think Jameis Winston, I thought would come along further than he has to this point. And therefore, since he hasn't, I'd love to say play Chris Olave because I think he's going to be an outstanding player and is. It's just going to be, until Winston gets consistent, it's going to be hard for anybody on the Saints roster to be consistent, much less Olave, who is a good young player, great young player, but it's going to be hard for him.
Browns Falcons, Chubb, Hunt, and Njoku. Njoku came from out of nowhere last week and was really key in some key spots. They're all my picks this week. So while I am a go for Pitts and Patterson in Atlanta.
Well, I think the Browns are being kept alive right now by Jacoby Brissett, and that's why Chubb is going off as the way he is, and the offensive line's playing well. But I think it also makes Amari Cooper a viable possibility. And again, there's really nobody in Atlanta. And I think this really comes down to Marcus Mariota. It's just way over his head right now. And it appears that way. And because of that, people like Pitts aren't getting the kind of numbers that you would think, other than Cordero Patterson at running back, because he's so physically impressive and capable in not only running the ball, but receiving. He would be the guy I'd start in Atlanta.
What goes through a guy like Brissett's head at this point? He knows he's a backup and he's playing because he's a backup, but he's only playing probably for up until the 11th week. I mean, does that mess with the guy's head, or is it a professional thing? It says, okay, I'm doing this. Here I am. 10 weeks from now, I'm not going to be playing.
If it was me, it would work this way. I'm playing for all other 31 teams right now, and I'm playing to get us into the playoffs as a Brown and be part of it. What could be a very good season for them, and then always be on the right side of things. And I think that's what Jacoby Brissett's thinking right now. He's a professional. He wants to play and uphold his end of the bargain. And in doing so, the Browns will be legit this year. They'll have a real chance of going to the playoffs.
All right, well, Bills, Ravens. Ravens, start them if you got them, obviously. Bills, pretty much the same. I mean, these are two teams that are just about the elite of the NFL at the moment.
This is going to have the look of everyone's Thanksgiving Day neighborhood touch football game, but with all the offensive fireworks of the July 4th game. And I think, everybody who pays attention to the NFL, this is the game everyone's waiting for this week.
Commanders, Cowboys. That's a situation. This is kind of it's an old
doesn't quite have the Redskins Cowboys.
I know. It's that old NFC East game that used to be every week was like, all right, we're going to get down and dirty, and this is like, okay, who are these guys? Carson Wentz, as I mentioned earlier, had minus fantasy points this last week. I can't see that happening again. But then again, maybe it will. Against Cowboys, I'm not sure. I'm still not sold on anyone above Gibson, McLaren, and Curtis Samuel. Now, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott have turned in. They're about sharing carries about the same as Chubb and Hunt, and they're both doing pretty well. I mean, they both had good fantasy points for running backs these days. So, and CeeDee Lamb, it's like he's there, man. And Cooper Rush, I'm actually looking to pick up Cooper Rush this week because of my situation in my league because I'm stuck on quarterbacks. But we'll have to wait.
There you go. Cooper Rush has been the talk of the town, hasn't he? These last couple of weeks, and he stepped in and done exactly what I think everybody in the Cowboys organization thought he was going to do, and I think what he thought he was going to do, and I think that really is what makes a guy like CeeDee Lamb the most grateful player on their team. And I think defensively, though, as you mentioned, Carson Wentz not having a back-to-back poor game, I don't know about that because that's a hell of a defensive front they've got.
Yeah,
it's an explosive one too. So I think that's a very real possibility for the Commanders and Carson Wentz that they could have another miserable game. And so I really think the only guy on that team worth playing is McLaurin. He's a consistent professional, gets open, makes tough catches, is a red zone threat, and he's kind of the only guy I could put in that category on their entire team offensively.
Yeah, guy rises above how bad his quarterback is.
Sometimes you got to do that,
Seahawks Lions, tough loss for the Lions, but Jamal Williams looks good as an RB1 this week over Swift. Hawkinson, St. Brown, and Josh Reynolds all have found homes here. Seahawks, I'm good with Lockett and Geno Smith, but I'm about ready to get off the Metcalf train. Now, he did have at least 12 targets last week. That was good. He had 12 targets. He only caught 5 of them for 64 yards and a touch. That ain't cutting it for a guy I'm spending a lot of money on right now. But, you may want to take him another week. I said last week, take him another week. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm barely on the train right now.
Yeah, I know you because you have him and I don't. And I can say this, but I think he's a guy that because Russell Wilson's no longer there, I just don't see I do not see his development and chemistry building with Geno Smith.
Yeah.
And as the Lions go, defensively, they're not bad either. In fact, very good. And so that's why I probably wouldn't play into the Seahawks. The Lions, on the other hand, because of what we talked about with Jared Goff, I think they're so well coached on both sides of the balls, including special teams, that I think guys like St. Brown and Reynolds and Hawkinson, though, is the one I would say, for some reason, he just hasn't gotten on track this week or this year. And again, he's one of those guys that's surely talented enough, and you'd hate to not play him on the week he goes off, but I think I would sit him this week.
Chargers Texans. Herbert may be a sit this week, but he's tough. Injured, still got 297. You got to keep an eye on him because of the injury that he's been fighting with. Otherwise, Palmer's a real find. And, of course, Eckler. And Dameon Pierce, you mentioned earlier, looks good at RB for Texas, but that's it, really.
Yeah, and I have no issue starting Herbert. It was just that game, it was incredibly disappointing how flat the Chargers were on both sides of the ball. And they just had no fight in them. As you said, Lawrence played through a lot of pain. You couldn't tell he was even dinged up at all. But who's he going to throw the ball to? Because no one's really stepped up and took Keenan Allen's place. And Eckler wasn't doing much running the ball either. And, I don't know. The Chargers went from being this potentially Super Bowl contender, losing to Kansas City, and now losing bad to Jacksonville. And I think within that locker room, they're starting to go, what are we? Who are
we? Did you hear that noise?
No.
Okay, because something on my desk just fell over. I'm going to leave it there. I mean, it was like, I have no idea what it is, but something just, if you saw me jump, that was it. Anyway, let's get back into it. Titans Colts finally getting Robert Woods involved. 9 targets, so I'm good along with the regular guys you would start here, and that includes Tannehill. Colts, you got to love Matt Ryan and Michael Pittman, who had 8 catches on 9 targets last week. He is still solid. He came back off that injury, and he's raring and ready to go. I consider him in my top 5 NFL wide receivers this year.
Maybe it's whoever plays quarterback for the Colts. Maybe that's the problem. because Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, no one's really gotten on track yet. And that's why fantasy-wise, I kind of run from everybody in this game except for Michael Pittman. Nobody on either team, to me, has kind of, I don't know, taken that think of someone like Jonathan Taylor, who you would have thought, to me anyway, would have had at least, one or two 150-yard games so far. Hadn't happened. And that's the better part of their team, is their run blocking offensive line. So this would be a hard time for me to start someone if I wasn't already starting them on either team.
Bears Giants, like you mentioned, Khalil Herbert is back. I like him. Start him along with Darnell Mooney, who had a good game. Giants, like I said earlier, Tony might be a good pickup here. And I think that might be the guy you really want to focus on if you're looking for a wide receiver in any kind of league. I think there's a good chance for him to have a good game here, but it could be wrong. But I would go for him.
Well, I think the Bears couldn't be drawing the Giants at a better time, because there's nobody on the Giants I would play. And I agree with you, though, 100% on Khalil Herbert. I don't agree with you on Darnell Mooney, because what he's turned into now is just another excellent downfield blocking receiver that the Bears have. Justin Fields can't throw his way out of a paper bag right now. And that's sad to say, but his best asset is running the ball and getting outside on naked bootlegs. And even then, he tends to sometimes fall away from the throw and miss open guys. So anyway, it's tough for me to bank on anybody with the Bears unless they're running the football.
Jaguars, Eagles, Lawrence, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk. I think they're all solid here, as is James Robinson. Robinson went over 100 yards last week. Eagles on a roll. Hurts, Smith, A.J. Brown, they're all good to go. Miles Sanders, possible flex in deeper leagues.
I agree with you on everything you said, but I do think Hurts, at the end of the day, is going to have better fantasy numbers than Trevor Lawrence. He's too versatile. He kind of reminds me of Lamar Jackson, only better inside the pocket. Maybe not quite as dynamic running the ball, but operating inside the pocket, I think he's better.
Jets, Steelers, Joe Flacco came down to earth last week, but he knows how to play the Steelers. I mean, they played him a billion times over the years. And he always gave him fits. So I expect him to have a good day, and maybe the guys around him will help him out with that. That means good days, if not spectacular days, for receivers like Garrett Wilson and Moore, as well as Breece Hall. Steelers, Claypool getting targeted, as is Deontay Johnson. Freiermuth didn't get a target until late in the fourth quarter last week. What's up with that? That's a travesty. I see him coming back this week. Hard not to start Najee. I would dump Trubisky.
That's if you had Trubisky.
Yeah, I don't
think a lot of people did or do. Another game I'd run away from fantasy-wise is this one. And until Kenny Pickett is a starter, and maybe TJ Watt returns from that pec tear, it's going to be hard for me to bank on a Steeler fantasy-wise. I think they kind of dropped into sort of the average NFL team for now.
At the moment, I think so, and a lot of that is all centered around those two players, Trubisky and Watt. And that's, and I mean, they got some great players on defense. They really step it up when individually, and maybe they're coming together. But that you take a TJ Watt out of any lineup, I don't care what lineup it is, it's like, okay, that the dynamic of that team changes. Cardinals Panthers, Arizona should be solid with Marquise Brown and Kyler Murray. Tough to start again for James Conner, but only as a flex against Carolina's D. Dortch and Ertz are good to go as well. Carolina's D had a solid week, so I do like them here along. I'm going to say I like McCaffrey this week.
Okay. Well, I too like Murray and Brown for the Cardinals, and Ertz, I think, is really developing into a Murray favorite. Zip on the Panther side of the ball, though. There's offensively, they're hard to watch. And I think you said defensively they had a good game last week. Okay, that one game, I think, okay, but not against this Cardinals offense.
Patriots Packers, Rodgers is a start, but I still think he's better trade bait than anything. And Romeo Doubs did get 8 targets to lead all Packer receivers. I don't know where he came from. So he'll be a hot pickup on the waiver wire this week. He'll be a hot commodity. Not much else to like here for me, especially with Watkins on IR. Patriots will be without Jones. Hoyer's a good fill-in. Devontae Parker is solid if you want to take the chance, as is Nelson Aguilar.
In thinking about the Patriots, even with Mac Jones, I don't see anybody offensively that you can play. Now that Mac Jones is out, I think it's even harder. And I think with Rodgers and the Packers, I do like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's fantastic. I still think he's one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the league. And the problem is, though, who do you pair with him? Because I think that their best receiver is Allen Lazard. I think that's going to prove to be the case over time. But now you've got Dobbs. He was the most targeted receiver last week. However, I think over time it's going to be Allen Lazard. So I would pair those two up. If I had either one, I'd play them. And I don't think the Patriots defense is going to be shutting anybody down.
Broncos Raiders, Sutton and Judy, they're solid. Hard not to start Williams at RB. Wilson is back to being pedestrian, I think. Mac Hollins looks good for Las Vegas. Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, I like all those guys this week.
Well, I think you kind of mentioned it. Really, there hasn't been a game yet this year where Russell Wilson has looked like the Russell Wilson, at least I've come to know. And he looks very unsure of what he's doing. And in so doing, no one else has really stepped up, or no one has become that guy he can rely on except for Courtland Sutton. And so I think it's kind of brought everybody else down to earth. Mac Hollins, though, for the Raiders, is such an impressive guy. I mean, he's kind of a hybrid receiver / tight end type. And I think because of that, he's taken kind of the bulk of the go-to throws, and that's above Devontae Adams. So I think that Mac Hollins can keep that going, though.
I think so, too. I really was impressed with him this last week, especially in the key situations like coming out toward the end there. Chiefs Buccaneers, Kelsey, Smith-Schuster, Valdez-Scantling. Do the Chiefs have a hold on anybody that's got two names for their last name? Smith-Schuster, Valdez-Scantling. Next they're going to get St. Brown, and both St. Browns maybe. Anyway, those three guys all solid, while on the Bucks, Gage and Brady are decent. Fournette, I like Fournette only because of the volume. He's going to get volume, and if you get volume, you're going to get some points, and you may get a breakaway, and you may even get a touchdown, and that puts you over for the day.
I think this is going to be a great game, just like the Buccaneers were last week against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. As good an offense as the Chiefs are, the Bucs are that good defensively. If they had any kind of depth offensively, the Buccaneers I'm talking about, they could really be a legit offense as well. But I think it's really going to be hard and challenging in a good way for Patrick Mahomes to keep progressing in the way that he's been up until now, which is now that Tyreek Hill is no longer there, it's become more apparent to me anyway that Mahomes is starting to kind of get through the progression to other people, which unfortunately for fantasy owners means that other than Kelsey, there really isn't someone you can bank on. But I think it's going to be a great game. It could be low scoring, maybe not the greatest fantasy game in the world, but I do think the Chiefs will come out on top.
Last couple of years for the Buccaneers, we've always been talking about this three-headed running back thing. You had Ronald Jones, who's no longer there. Fournette finally has cemented his role there. And the guy that's been left out in the cold was a high draft pick at running back, Keyshawn Vaughn. I guess he's had one carry this year, and it doesn't look like he's going to get any time soon. I think with him, they got to get rid of this guy, move him on, let somebody else take him on. And I don't know whether it's him or whether the skill isn't where it's supposed to be. I don't know what it is, but Keyshawn Vaughn needs to move on and move someplace else because he's not going to play there. If you have him, I'd cut him. Rams, 49ers, Cup, of course, will go along with Akers and Robinson, who's getting more involved, so I like him here. On the Niners side, Debo, Aiyuk, Jeff Wilson, Kittle only if he's healthy, and that's been a question mark lately.
And I think the guy for the Rams, and I can't remember, his first name's Ben. He's a receiver. He's another tight end type of guy, but he plays receiver. He's like 6'4", 220, 225. They'll put him at fullback sometimes. Skowronek, I think is his last name.
Yeah.
And he's a versatile weapon. He didn't score any touchdowns last week, but he was their leading receiver. And I think he's, they'll put him at fullback. They'll slip him out in the flat on naked bootlegs. And I just think they're looking for ways like Cooper Kupp to add him as a dimension not a lot of teams have.
I just wish they'd get more guys like Cooper Kupp instead of guys like Skowronek and all, used to be a broadcaster's nightmare. When I was first coming up as a play-by-play guy, I never wanted to do hockey because all the hockey guys had 14 syllables in their names.
Sure, you have to kind of phonetically.
Yeah, and there was only one vowel among all of this. And there you have it. Another edition of Kramer and Brill. Find out more by going to our website, kramerandbrill.com, or on my Bob Brill YouTube channel. My friend and colleague, Erik Kramer. I'm Bob Brill. We'll see you next time.